Hi everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, in whichever part of the world you are. My name is Ashish Sharma, and I am really glad and excited to be a part of the DAM Asia Pacific event. Well, it's really the first time that I'm attending this event and have got an opportunity to share my experience in the DAM industry over these years. And hopefully, there would be more such events where I get to be a part of those events and I can share more such experiences um, with you all. With that said, let me quickly move on to the next slide. And what this really is, really a very high level overview, not really an overview, but high level details about myself. Yes, I'm currently working as a senior digital librarian with Novartis, and I have been actually with Novartis for more than 5 years now, and have been supporting the brand teams on hosting the content on the DAM platform, the existing DAM system. And I'm also supporting the DAM implementation at Novartis, the new DAM implementation at Novartis, rather content life cycle management system. And as I said, I've been working with the brand teams, brand managers in hosting the content on the DAM platform. And I have also worked as project manager, supporting again a pharma client in various digital initiatives, and also maintaining their existing DAM platforms for commercial use, ensuring that the DAM services are running properly, and the tagging of the assets on the metadata and the metadata for the assets is proper, and it is increasing usage of the content. So that's really a very high level overview about myself. On the right hand side is really an old image. I really have a beard now, so that's something that needs to be updated though. So yeah, moving ahead. So there are really two topics that I'm going to talk about here today, and based on my experiences on those two topics. So that is migration and taxonomy. So without wasting any time, I'll quickly move on to the next slide. So that is migration. Now, why migration? So that's the first question that really comes in mind when you talk about migrating any content from existing DAM platform to a new DAM platform. So of course, you have users who are using the existing DAM system, and you would be moving that entire data onto the new DAM platform. And honestly, there are multiple reasons why an organization would go with the decision of moving on to a new DAM platform. So that eventually could be due to better governance, where the few features, functions might not be matching the organization's criteria anymore, and they might be facing some governance issues with the existing uh, DAM platform, and that's where they decide to move on to a better DAM system or DAM platform there. So that is one of the reasons why they might move to a new DAM platform. It could be because they would be upgrading the existing DAM system, where it might be a possibility where currently the legacy DAM system is very basic and it does not have those features and functions that the organization is looking at an enterprise level. Some basic features like collections, sharing options, watermarking, which is really available on some other DAM platforms that we have in market. It might be useful to move on to those platforms. That's when the organization might go ahead with that decision. Or else the third one would really be a completely different one, where it's really an organization's initiative to move from one DAM platform and to an entire life cycle management system where everything is done in one platform itself, right from content creation to approval to hosting of the platform to reuse of content. Everything is done on that one platform. So that's where you would move from an existing DAM platform, the legacy system, to a new one. The fourth one again is the better management of digital assets across different functions. So in pharma, we have different departments, different functions there, where you've got pharma, you've got onco, you've got some other departments who have their own set of digital content that they are creating, and they have different uh, places where they would be hosting that content, and that's where eventually you would want to move to a different functions so that you can manage the digital assets at one place. And last but not the least, that is maximize and increase use of digital assets, where the legacy system may not have that tagging capability, or the metadata model is not built in a way where uh, users are able to locate the content, find the content. It becomes difficult for them to search the content. So that's where eventually organization might take a decision to move onto that new DAM platform, where it becomes easier for a user to search assets. The searchability of assets becomes a lot easier for an end user or agencies to locate our content on the DAM platform. So these are really the reasons that an organization might take take to move from an existing DAM platform to other DAM platform. And although it might sound simpler, an easy task to move content from one system to another, but it's really not an easy task there. And at times it gets very overwhelming as well. And it's not one person's job there. And there are multiple people involved, multiple teams involved in moving the content from one place to another, from old DAM system to another DAM system. So we've got the product owners, we've got the stakeholders, we've got IT and technology support, the vendor support, the librarians, and more set of people who are involved in the entire migration activity when it takes place. So the product owners are really the ones who manage the new DAM platform. They are the ones who take decisions of implementing any new features, new functions that has to be added so that it becomes easier for an end user to find the content. Then we've got key stakeholders in pharmaceutical industry. So we really identify brand managers, business owners as key stakeholders there, who are really the ones who would be helping us in identifying the content that has to be moved to the new platform. Along with that, also identifying in the metadata information, if in case we have a new metadata model in place for the new DAM system, which has some metadata information that is not present in the old DAM platform, that's where the input from key stakeholders becomes really important. So they are also the ones who actually helps in the migration activity there. Then we've got IT and technology support, purely helping in ensuring that we are meeting that compliance requirement. The organization is meeting that compliance requirement. And then we have any server requirements, any specific server needed to migrate the content, or any scripting that is needed. So that's where the IT and technology support becomes important there. Then we have vendor support, who helps in implementing any new functions, features, and also running the service there altogether. So that's where vendor also plays a key role. Not only that, in case there's any issue that you encounter at the time of migration, so that's where you would have that vendor support along with other uh, uh, people and teams as well, who would be working on finding a solution for that issue while we face in the migration activity. Then we have librarians as well, who also play an important role, where they would eventually be helping in moving the content from one place, from one uh, old legacy dam system to other dam systems. So they also play an important part there. Eventually, also checking the metadata information, checking the files are working properly, and it's not something that's missed out. So that's where it's really a teamwork. That's what you see on the right hand side. It's really a teamwork there, which is done in migration. Might involve challenges there, and but it's something that's always, once completed, it looks fun. It is really something that you would be proud of once you eventually move on and migrate the content. And it sounds easier, but and as I said, it looks like an easy task, easy project, but the amount of content that you're dealing with, it's really huge in size, that you would be moving there, and that's where it becomes a little challenging as well. What you see on the next slide is really a very funny picture. That's really people working on migration, who are just looking for all the files, ensuring that it's moved properly on the new DAM platform so that it becomes easier for an end user to locate that file. So that's what we are when we are working on a migration project. So quickly moving on to the next slide here. As I said, migration might sound an easy task, but it's not really that simple. You are dealing with a lot of content, more than it could go up to terabytes as well. And there are multiple challenges that you face as a part of the migration team. So one of them could be working on multiple data sources. So example, in you have a brand, you have different departments in a pharmaceutical company, you've got different brands there. There is a possibility there you might uh, have different data sources where one brand might be hosting content on a shared drive, the other brand might be hosting content on a SharePoint, or the other department might be hosting content on a different third-party DAM platform altogether with their own set of metadata information. And when you have to move to that one DAM solution, that's where you have to actually work on multiple data sources. You have to find all that data sources where the data is currently stored, and you start planning out the activity on moving that content from one place to another. The other one is again analyzing the existing metadata structure and taxonomy. So as I said, in case there is a scenario where different brands have different metadata structure, their own storage place, that's where you also have to analyze existing metadata structure and also map it with the new metadata model on the new DAM system, because there is a possibility that you might not see few metadata fields on the old metadata model, but it is a requirement on the new metadata model of the DAM system. And that's where you have to find those values, understand if there is an existing metadata structure where we can get that value from, uh, ensure that the taxonomy is standard, we do not encounter duplicates. Maybe there is different names for same type of content in different brand teams. So that's one challenge that you would come across. The third one is really identifying current type of content, where you have to actually work with the key stakeholders to identify the type of content. So we've got different type of content. It could be PDF, it could be a simple Word document, and as simple as Excel file. It could be video, websites. So there's a huge list of type of content that you would be actually working on to, that has to be moved to the new system. That's where inputs from the key stakeholders really becomes important, because they are the ones who would help us identify that type of content, and also provide us the metadata information in case it's not available in the legacy DAM or legacy storage space that they have. And that's where key stakeholders input is very important. And at the same time, key stakeholders have their own priorities, their own tasks that they have to complete, and that's where availability of key stakeholders is also a challenge because of their prior commitments. So you always need to make sure that the key stakeholder input is required and they are available, so that you can clarify your doubts and your questions around the metadata, the content that has to be moved, the availability of these assets in case these assets are to be archived on to a different platform. So that's where the key stakeholder availability becomes important there. But with their other commitments, other priorities that they have, it becomes difficult for them to attend all the meetings there. Then we have the taxonomy and metadata model. As I said, the new DAM system could be a new metadata model altogether. That's where you would have to define those new taxonomy structure. One enterprise model structure is something that you would be looking for to have that implemented, that can be used across organization globally. So that's where you would also want to define that new taxonomy and metadata model. Last but not least is the integration and compliance. So the existing systems might be linked or integrated with other downstream systems, and with the idea of moving on to the new DAM platform, you would also be looking at integrating it with not only the old systems there, but any new platforms, new systems you would want to integrate it with. And of course, it has to match that compliance as well, where you might come across challenges where some information is not meeting the requirement as per our compliance criteria or as per the organization's compliance criteria. So that's where you have these challenges. However, once you have a solution for all these challenges that we come across, and once you have a defined timeline, you are able to successfully migrate the content once you have all the relevant information. But what happens post migration? How do you ensure that your migration has been successful? And so that's what we see on the next slide. Was my migration a successful one or not? So there are a few pointers, key pointers that I've updated here that indicates that your migration was successful. That's really mapping of old metadata. One of those is mapping of old metadata with new model. As I said, the new DAM system might have new metadata model structure, which is an enterprise-driven metadata model. And you want to ensure that the assets that you're migrating have that metadata information, and you do not have any field blank, which ideally should have that field, at least a value populated there. So mapping of old metadata model with new model is one of the key criteria there that indicates that you have been able to identify the right set of information for that asset, and you have been able to map that with the asset as well as per the new taxonomy that's been prepared. Then you have to look at the stamping of the metadata with digital assets, which is again a an activity that a librarian can look at along with the validation, along with the key stakeholders or business owners, where they can look at the stamping of the metadata of the assets and compare it with the old legacy system, and also validate it with checking the files, ensuring that the metadata is proper. And once you are satisfied that majority of the assets have had that correct metadata stamping, and majority of the files are opening up properly on the new DAM system, you know that the migration is successful there. Then you have duration of migration, which is the timeline that we define for that migration, which is again, as I said earlier, it's a huge ask when you're dealing with migration. You're not only you would be dealing with content as huge as 1 terabyte or maybe even more, and that is where you have to define those timelines and the duration, keeping the challenges in mind and the amount of content that you have in mind. You have on at plate on. So that's where you have to understand that the timeline has to be defined in a way where you are pretty sure that you would be able to achieve the migration within that time frame and define the timelines accordingly. So once that is done successfully, you know that the migration is successful. And last but not the least is really the user experience and feedback. So users are really used to the old system, the old legacy DAM system, which they have been using in using for quite some time. And once you move the content to a new DAM platform, so and once users start using the content and start using the DAM platform and start looking up the content, the feedback that you get from them is also an indication that your migration is successful. For example, let's say if you've moved a one brand content, roughly around 1,000 to 2,000 assets onto the new DAM platform, and if end user is not able to locate that content on the new DAM platform, you know that it's something that's there has been an issue with the migration. And that's where you would want that positive feedback from a user, where the moment it's migrated on the new DAM platform, a user tries to look up the content, he's able to find the content quickly. That's when you know your migration has been successful, and you are able to, the users are able to achieve really what they were looking for. They are able to find the content what they were able to look they were looking for. And yeah, that really indicates that the migration has been a success there. So with this, I've really completed the migration piece there. I know there would be questions. You can always reach out to me. I will quickly move on to the enterprise taxonomy now. So uh, as you would know already, so taxonomy is really something that really helps not only from a pharmaceutical perspective, but at an organizational perspective. It helps users to maintain and drive consistency where everyone is speaking the same language. In a scenario where you would have different brands, different departments, different functions. If they have different structure, different way of managing the content, it becomes difficult uh, to create that taxonomy structure. And from an enterprise level, you wouldn't want that different departments use their own taxonomy or vocabulary for tagging the content. What you would want is an enterprise level taxonomy structure that uh, is implemented across the organization where everybody speaks the same language. And that's what the taxonomy database does. I mean, it really helps in driving that consistency. It helps in implementing that controlled vocabulary where any additions, any changes on the value, if any department, any function wants a value to be added, it's not something that can be added directly. It would go via a governance that would be in place, and it would go through the product owners and the relevant stakeholders who would actually see if the value is something that is already available in the database, or it is something that needs to be added, or is it something that is a duplicate of an existing value. So that's where it actually helps in driving that governance, keeping that control vocabulary in place. Not only that, it's really time saving as well. I mean, taking an example previously, if different department have different vocabulary, different values for one type of content, it would eventually become difficult for for users to find the content on the platform. And that's where you would the database actually helps, because you know that there's one database structure, one value, and any change, any addition that needs to happen, it has to happen through that database, and thus it saves a lot of time as well. Moving on to the next slide. So you have existing taxonomy structure. It might be that there would be different taxonomy that different departments are using. Where do I start with? So the very first thing that would need to be done is understand what is currently available and what is the current taxonomy structure that's in place in the organization, or maybe at a department level as well. How are they using that on the system? Is Are there values that can be implemented at an enterprise level? Are there metadata fields from a DAM perspective that can be implemented at an enterprise level, which all the brands would be using, and which would eventually be helpful for an end user? So that's where you would start understanding the current taxonomy structure and see what is available. Then we would start building on standardizing that structure that can be implemented at an organization and enterprise level, where you would want to drive that and put in place those values, those metadata structure and taxonomy structure in place, and start developing that taxonomy database. And it can be done either in your existing tools, if you have that in the organization, which a lot of organization has. And in case if there is no tool available, that is where you can start as simple as Excel. You can use Excel as and CSV to start developing those taxonomy. And again, it's something that's being developed. There would eventually be additions, changes to it as well, and it would grow eventually. So, but to start off with Excel with a small structure, and then grouping all the values as per the metadata model in that Excel, that's probably the way you would want to go with, in case there are multiple data sources, multiple taxonomy that's being implemented already in the organization, and you would want to move away from that and have that standardized enterprise level structure. So you can always start off with Excel sheet and start maintaining the values and the structure there, and then eventually you can move your work that the database that you created in an Excel sheet onto the main taxonomy tools, the MDM tools that are there. And once you have in place, how do you really put taxonomy to work? So that's where once you have that database created there, that's where you start by narrowing down terms, values for consistency, and eliminate duplicates. As I said in an example, that one brand is probably using a different naming convention or a different name for a particular type of content, and the other department or other brand is probably using a different name for the same type of content. That's not what you want. You want consistency there, and you want to eliminate duplicates. That's where you would narrow down terms and values. You would use MDM to maintain the new taxonomy structure. Once you have that created, you would eventually move to a new database model where you would have everything at one place. You would establish a process that uh, helps in adding and updating any values, where any department, any functions, if they want to add a new value, especially in pharma industry, you have those research on new drugs and new development that's been happening. So you would see new addition requests, new values that are being requested to be updated. And with this structure in place, you would ensure that the process is being followed, and you would be ensuring that the value is not already existing in the system there. So that's how you would be able to put your taxonomy to work. The last but not the least is integrating taxonomy database with downstream system, which is where you would be integrating the entire database with other downstream system, and they would eventually be fetching all the information for them for that from the main MDM tool, and it would drive consistency as well. So any changes on the taxonomy database, it would reflect on the other system as well. So that's how you would put your taxonomy to work. And with that, I really sum up with my presentation here. Uh, I hope you liked the topics that I covered. In case you have any questions, please feel free to ask those questions to me, and I'll be more than happy to answer your queries. With that, I complete my presentation. Thank you, and you have a nice day. Thank you.